The suburban neighborhood of Maplewood was known for its picket fences and manicured lawns, a place where life moved at a slower, predictable pace. Daniel and Laura Reed had recently moved into one of the modest two-story homes, eager to start their new life as a family. Their daughter Sophie, just 6 weeks old, had quickly become the center of their universe. Alongside them was Rocky, a 3-year-old pit bull with a glossy brindle coat and soulful brown eyes. Daniel had adopted Rocky from a shelter years before meeting Laura, and the dog had been his steadfast companion through some of life's darkest moments. Rocky was affectionate, loyal, and surprisingly gentle for his intimidating appearance. However, Laura had never fully warmed to him. She loved animals but had grown up hearing stories about pit bulls being unpredictable and aggressive. With Sophie now in the picture, Laura's unease grew into a gnawing fear. Every noise from the baby monitor made her tense, and she often caught Rocky sitting outside Sophie's nursery, ears perked and body alert. One evening, as Laura rocked Sophie to sleep, she noticed faint scratches on the nursery door. "Daniel," she called sharply, "did you see these marks? I think Rocky's been scratching at the door." Daniel frowned. "I doubt it's him, Laura. He hasn't been destructive since I've had him." Still, Laura's mind raced. Over the next few nights, she couldn't shake the sense that something wasn't right. Scratches appeared more frequently, and once she thought she heard soft whimpering through the baby monitor. She brushed it off as new mom paranoia, but the unease was becoming impossible to ignore. To put her mind at ease, Laura suggested installing a camera in Sophie's room. "Just to monitor everything," she said, though her real intent was to keep an eye on Rocky. Daniel reluctantly agreed, hoping it would settle her nerves. Days later, late at night, the couple sat side by side on the couch, their laptop open to review the footage. The screen flickered to life, showing Sophie sleeping soundly in her crib. Everything seemed normal until Rocky appeared. He paced quietly into the nursery, his head low and tail wagging slightly. He approached the crib, standing so close that his breath fogged the camera lens. "What is he doing?" Laura whispered, her voice tight with fear. Daniel frowned but said nothing. They watched as Rocky placed his front paws gently on the crib railing, peering inside. His posture wasn't threatening, but Laura's anxiety spiked. "I knew it," she said, her voice trembling. "Daniel, this is it. He could hurt her. I can't let this continue." Daniel hesitated, torn between defending his dog and addressing Laura's growing distress. "He didn't do anything, Laura. He's just curious." Laura shot him a look. "You want to wait until he does? What if curiosity turns into something else?" The argument carried into the night, growing heated. Laura insisted Rocky had to go for Sophie's safety. Daniel, his heart heavy, reluctantly agreed to look into rehoming options. They decided to take action within the week, a decision that left both of them emotionally drained. Rocky, sensing the tension, stayed by the nursery door that night, his body curled protectively. Unbeknownst to them, the footage held a secret they hadn't yet uncovered, a revelation that would challenge everything they believed about Rocky. In that final week before Daniel and Laura planned to find Rocky at a new home, dusk settled and Sophie woke up crying, more unsettled than usual. While Laura tried to soothe the baby, Rocky once again appeared by the nursery door. Laura's eyes darted to him with apprehension, but this time Daniel noticed something different. The dog's ears were pricked up, as though listening intently for any faint sound, and his gaze was filled with concern. That night, Sophie took a long time to calm down. When Laura finally placed her in the crib and stepped out, Rocky was there in the hallway, almost trembling. He didn't look aggressive, rather, he looked anxious, as though something in the nursery alarmed him. Laura whispered, her voice edged with worry. "Look at him, Daniel. He's so on edge. I told you, his behavior isn't normal." Daniel sighed. He knew Rocky well. He had never given Daniel a reason to fear him. "Maybe there's a sound or smell we can't detect," he said, but he also couldn't help wondering what it might be. That night, neither of them slept well. Early the next morning, Laura insisted on checking the camera footage. She rewound to watch overnight recordings. She saw Sophie fussing a few times, and each time Rocky tried to slip quietly into the nursery. Then came a startling moment in the footage. Rocky lifted his head, sniffing the air carefully. He whined softly, almost as if he wanted to alert Sophie. Then he trotted to the door and let out a series of low, muffled barks, barely audible through the house. More unsettling was a faint shadow near the ceiling, a dark blur that appeared briefly on camera before disappearing. It seemed almost like a puff of vapor sliding down from the attic space. Laura froze. She replayed the footage, and Daniel watched over her shoulder. They saw a slight damp spot, a hazy patch near the ceiling. Rocky was clearly fixated on that spot, then hurried back to check Sophie in the crib. "What is that?" Laura asked, dread building in her voice. "Something was in here last night." Daniel's eyes were locked on the screen. "Maybe a leak? Gas? Smoke? Something we're not seeing?" Laura's heart pounded. Was Rocky trying to warn us? Acting on instinct, they ran into Sophie's nursery. Everything looked fine at first, but there was the faintest hint of a musty smell in the air. Daniel took a deeper breath. There was definitely something off, and now Laura could sense it too. "It feels damp in here," he whispered. Sophie was asleep, but Laura was uneasy. "Rocky knows something's wrong. We just don't understand it yet." Daniel decided to call a contractor first thing in the morning. That night, neither Laura nor Daniel slept much. Every time Sophie stirred, Rocky would rush to the door or gently bark, as if telling them, "Go check." The next day, the contractor arrived to inspect the walls and attic. He discovered a problem with the insulation. A small but dangerous mold infestation had formed in the attic due to a leak. Left untreated, it could have threatened the entire family's health, especially baby Sophie's developing immune system. Laura and Daniel's eyes widened. "So Rocky was sensing this mold, trying to warn us?" Laura asked in disbelief. The contractor nodded. "Dogs have an incredible sense of smell. He probably picked up on it long before you could." Daniel felt his throat tighten with guilt. "We almost gave him away for being a threat," he murmured. Tears welled up in Laura's eyes as she looked down at Rocky. He sat in the hallway watching them, tilting his head as if waiting for their next move. All the mistrust in Laura's heart melted away in that instant, replaced by gratitude and remorse. While they had the mold remediated and the attic repaired, Laura moved Sophie into a different room. She noticed Rocky relaxing a bit after the repairs started, as though he knew that danger was being dealt with. Night after night, he remained watchful but calm. Over time, Laura's lingering fears gave way to appreciation. Rocky's loving nature and unwavering loyalty proved that he wanted only to protect Sophie. The Pitbull had saved their child's life. No one would question his place in the family again. In the quiet streets of Maplewood, word spread about how the fearsome Pitbull had actually been the silent guardian. Rocky had shattered all of Laura's prejudices, becoming a true hero in the eyes of the family. For Sophie, he would always be her first and truest protector, the dog that risked everything to keep her safe.